Hello, hello.
Hi, Guido.
Hi, Guido.
Hi, how are you folks? Good to have you.
It's so great to have you. I'm excited about your your presentation. This is Andalki, who's the current president, who's a little bit green around the ears, but I remember your previous presentation, and it's just a really great project. So we're all ready for you. We've got everybody here on Zoom. So
Super.
go forward.
Thank you so much. I'm having some technical issues with the slides. Maybe I can interject in a little bit, but I would certainly love to give you a little bit of an update as to what we're doing here in Panama. We're very, very thankful to all the support we're getting from the Palos Verdes South Bay Audubon Society group, because it's been very quite instrumental in guaranteeing the success of our projects. As I gather some of you may have heard from previous presentations, we have been working very hard for the last 20 years in the Cerro Chucantí mountain reserve. I'm not sure how many of you were in this presentation before, or in that preliminary presentation. Anybody here that was in the?
Yeah, we're here.
Yes.
Yes, I mean that you attended. Go ahead.
I'm trying to make you full screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a month or so ago, wasn't it, Guido?
Yeah, I think so. And anyways, I wanted to give you a summary, because we even had a very interesting concept of auctioning off sort of the naming rights and to a new species of flower that was discovered and described from Cerro Chucantí in the Darien of Panama. And well, we got to name it after our good friend Jess Morton, and that was called Dieffenbachia mortoniana is the Latin name for that species. So that was very interesting, and the funds raised from that species allowed us to maintain one of our rangers in Chucantí for about 6 months or so. So that's been very much welcome, especially since we support most of our operation through ecotourism and bird watchers that come visit us at the field stations. With COVID, we had suffered greatly from that. But well, things are slowly coming back to normal, and we have some bookings for next year, so hopefully are going to be able to be more sustainable, which is what we ultimately want. But as some of the new projects that we're doing, and that you have been so kind as to support us again, one of those is migration, the hawk migration. We have just surpassed over 2 million raptors migrating through our Bocas del Toro Hawk Watch in western Panama. And just today, we were very excited because we had a big flight of Swainson's hawks. I'm not sure if they occur much in your neck of the woods. Do you get Swainson's hawks and turkey vultures?
In the desert.
Yes.
So folks are saying in the desert. I know they occur around here sometimes.
Yes, they migrate through the Angeles National Forest. Near the Claremont area here, and they can do that in big numbers.
Okay, so that's a
excellent.
little bit east and north of us.
Yeah.
As you probably recall from your visit here, there's a bunch of mountains to the north of downtown LA. And so that's what
Right.
Jonathan was just referring to. And then we've got areas east that are a little bit more inland, whereas here in Palos Verdes, South Bay, we're right next to the coast.
Okay, super, excellent. And so yeah, imagine that, and we were very excited because this is the first time that in Panama we have a very And we started earlier this season. You normally started in September or October rather. This time we started in August, and we're very excited because we got almost 900,000 Mississippi kites, which is actually more than the estimated world's population of Mississippi kites. So we're super excited about that number, and we look forward to continuing this this presentation in the this ongoing monitoring of the populations of Mississippi kites. And actually, I'm going to try to see if I could share with you a little bit here a screen about the migration. Let's see if I can put this up real quick. Because it's really impressive how we managed to get all these, to count them. I'm not sure if anybody in the group is looks at raptor migration in your group, but it's really impressive to get literally.
And did you allow him to share? Did you make him a co-host?
Well, Jonathan and I haven't figured it out yet, so we just put him on the center.
Because otherwise he can't share.
Oh, I cannot share. You're right.
You have to make him a co-host.
Once we work on.
Try advanced sharing options.
Let's see. Advanced sharing options.
All participants.
Okay.
Only it says yeah. Okay, sharing, yes. Screen, yes. Yes.
Is it doing it?
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Can you see? Can you see my screen?
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of birds.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Mhm.
Those are not flies, huh?
They're not peppered either.
Oh my gosh.
And imagine trying to count each of those birds.
I was thinking about exactly that. I've done a lot of counting of critters in my career, but never anything that looked like that.
Oh, wow.
There's just clouds of them. And these are the Mississippi kites?
Yeah, most of the Mississippi kites, yeah.
Yeah.
This is from the September 30th. There's a turkey vulture there, some broad-winged hawks. Can you imagine trying to count all these birds? It's unreal.
Do you have a methodology that you use?
Exactly, yeah. Basically, what we try to do is that we wait until they are, you cannot really count them when they are like this. Can you see when I zoom in can you see when I zoom in or no?
Mhm. Yes.
So you can identify sort of the kites versus the broad wings. It's amazing. And yeah, you have to wait. You cannot really count them when they're like stirring up in the kettle like this, but instead you have to wait until they are streaming away from you. And then you use basically, well, if they're not that many, if they're like a couple of 100, you count them either individually or you count them by like tens, like there's 10, 20, 40, 60. You have to like visualize in your head, like this piece of sky holds 25 birds. So it's 25, 50, or 75, 100, 150. But when you have like literally thousands of them up in the sky, you count them by the hundreds. So in this little section of sky, there is 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, and you go like that. But it's really impressive how to count them. Is a whole art. So we also get some wood storks. Like, I'm not sure if you can see the screen here.
Yes.
Yeah, and let me show you this other video. Here is mostly Mississippi kites.
And so the white ones in that are the wood storks?
Yeah, the previous ones. Yeah. Well,
Wow.
when they're far away, they look like nothing, but when you zoom in, it's really impressive. Look at this. Here, Mississippi kites, broad-winged hawks.
What?
You can tell here that the ones with the skinny wings, this one, the black one,
Yeah.
is the Mississippi kites, and the other brother is the broadwings, as the name implies. So this is a very interesting project because it was started by, well, we had been contemplating working on this for a couple of years, for like 4 or 5 years, and but we hadn't gotten around to it until last year. Carl Barton, who's a very experienced hawk counter at Duluth, Minnesota, he started counting. I mean, he came to Panama and started counting the birds, and then we joined him and really were able to follow it up and keep it a little long. I mean, much longer. And as of now, we have 3 different count sites in Bocas del Toro. That's in Western Panama. And so, yeah, we're very excited, not only because of amounts of birds, we have already surpassed 2 million birds, but because we're involving the communities, the indigenous communities, the Nobe people. And we're trying to make an emphasis on attracting young ladies, indigenous ladies, to be a part of this, to make them empowered and to show them that they can contribute knowledge, because that's the beauty of when you invite the communities to generate knowledge, because they feel more empowered, they feel like that's theirs, and that allows us also to have them become like custodians to the resources, because all these birds, they only fly during the daytime, during the heat of the day, and they do not fly at nighttime, because when the whole point of the migration is to to take advantage of the thermal currents, so that they can avoid wasting too much energy flying, right? And so they use the thermal currents to do that. We have to keep track. This is a view from the Bocas Ridge Hotel and Residences, which of course we have to thank publicly. And if you ever want to come experience this, it's just spectacular. And right now, late October is the peak migration, where you have hundreds of thousands of birds in a single day, and the views are amazing. This is one of our counters, Ubaldina. This is the view. Sometimes we have a nice clear view of the Caribbean Ocean or the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes this is a view of the hotel that is very kind, that supports our project. We have been they have supporting us for this is our 2nd year in a row, and they offer us pretty much free room on board, and our counters can stay there. It's actually quite nice, not just because of the views, but because the facilities are nice, and they have nice apartments, and they even have a really nice swimming pool that sometimes we can look at this one.
Oh. Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of raptors.
I've only seen
those are-
mosquitoes like that.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, and so we're very happy to have and start training the indigenous people to count these raptors. And this is a view of the swimming pool. Was raining at the time, but it's still, you can see how it can be quite nice to spend hours on end looking at the sky and the raptors in the distance. And yeah, this is when it's sunny. It's a really nice view of the ocean, the Caribbean Sea, actually, in the islands. And so yeah, it's very important to teach the locals to value the resources, and also at the same time, unfortunately, we don't have much funding, but we managed to we have a crowdfunding campaign. And if you go to our social media and you look up Adopta Bosque, or that's Adopt a Bosque, like BOSQUE. If somebody can type it up for us in the chat box, that would be awesome. And adoptabosque.org, there is a section that talks more about the project of the hawk migration. And there is a crowdfunding campaign in which we're accepting donations to be able to support this hawk watch. And we give them a little, very small, symbolic, humble stipend. But still, for the impoverished economies in these communities, that very humble stipend could be the difference between putting food on the table or not. So at the same time, it allows women to have a source of income for their households, which are, one of the issues with our traditional societies, that oftentimes the ladies don't get to work much, and the guys are the ones that do most of the working and the providing of income for the household. So the fact that we're training ladies, this is Ovidio Jaramillo, one of our assistants that was training. This is Ubaldina. She was getting a field guide to the birds of Panama. So we're excited about involving the ladies, especially indigenous ladies, that have an alternative source of income. However, if it's a very small stipend, still it makes a difference for them. So yeah, we're looking forward to keeping this up for quite a while. Oopsie. And so that more and more people can appreciate the importance of preserving the wildlife and migratory species. And this is very nice. Let me see how I can stop sharing. Here we go. Okay. And so I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about another project we're working on, and that is the Chorogo one. We have been very excited about getting the support from Palos Verdes South Bay Audubon to start a brand new private nature reserve in the Pacific side of Western Panama. And that is one that is been very much threatened because the Pacific side is drier and more comfortable, so that you can, that's where historically the indigenous, the Spaniards settled this area far more, and that has allowed us to, unfortunately, has led to the destruction of most of the lowland habitat on the Pacific slope of Western Panama. So now we're trying to change this, and the way we're doing that is we started a brand new nature reserve in Western Panama, and I'm going to show you some pictures of that in a minute. Here we go. Okay. Here it is. And one of the ways we work on preserving the habitat is by land acquisition, right? And so you can see here is a picture that we took. Once we buy a piece of land, that's just the very beginning of the whole undertaking, because if you don't have a physical presence, like boots on the ground, people would not pay attention, that they would not bother much with your intention. So you have to have either rangers, or you have to visit, and you have to make sure people. This is a view of the forest there. This is quite nice. Look at these huge trees. And we have very interesting flowers in this area. This is one of our endemic areas, like key biodiversity areas. You're actually, literally, this is a benchmark indicating the borderline between Panama and Costa Rica. We're literally sit on the border. And one of the approaches we do is that we work, we have agreements with the government, and we invite on these patrols various law enforcement agencies. So in this case, we have this is me on the far right, and the guys with berets. This guy right next to me, he's from the border police, the Sena Front, and the guy right next to him in black, he's actually from the presidential Secret Service, with the President's Secret Service. So we invite them with the excuse that it's kind of a training for them to have more experience in the jungle, and it's much appreciated. This other guy is from the police, is ecological police, and that's Chelina Batista, the girl there, right, standing on the benchmark, and the guy next to her, he's with the Coast Guard. So in this particular shot, we have four. We have the border police, Secret Service, ecological police, and the guy from the Coast Guard. So four agencies joining us, right? And the guys in orange there, they are like FEMA, the equivalent of FEMA, which is the ones that come in case of any disaster or anything like that. So it's quite exciting. And this is a result of land purchase we're able to acquire through the Quick Fund for Nature. And they gave us a grant to buy this land. And we're now protecting it a little bit with support from the Rainforest Trust and the International Conservation Fund of Canada. And you guys, of course, have helped us quite a bit in this. Now, also, this is another area of the Darien in Western Panama, Eastern Panama, near Colombia, rather. And this is a quite scenic boat ride to get there. And what we tried to do is that we brought in, I'm not sure how you call it, we call it Gira Medica, like a medical trip. So we brought in volunteer physicians and doctors, and we attended because these distant communities, these are indigenous Embera people in Eastern Panama near Colombia. They have very little health services. So we brought in some doctors and pediatricians and also dermatologists to look after them. And so it was very much appreciated. And it's part of our commitment because we try to share our love for nature, and it's also, we have to be consequential, and because humans are also part of the environment, it's not just nature, but people that live in nature also need to be part of the equation. So in this case, we fixed meals for them also, and we had like a big get together, and the kids were looked after, and were handed out a bunch of medication. This is a nice shot of part of the community. A couple of doctors that joined us, and so there were quite a bit of issues, and they handed out. The doctors helped us gather a number of medical samples, so they handed out medications for free to these communities. In this community, it's called La Marea in Eastern Panama, in the Darien region. We also have a couple of projects in addition to just working with the communities and forest conservation. We have one that works with macaws. And this video I'm about to show you is in edit. And nobody's seen it before out of this hall. So I'm going to show you the video. Can you see some birds here?
Yeah.
What birds do you see?
Parrots.
Those are macaws.
Because
And I'm going to play it again. Can you tell what they're doing?
I don't know enough to know.
They seem to be like coming around and around that particular area.
Looks like there's a hawk there.
They're
Is there a
actually,
hawk there on the tree?
that's a harpy eagle.
Ah,
Wow.
And a flock of like 60 macaws are harassing it or mobbing it. And there is the macaw. There's a very bad shot of through the binoculars, but there is the harpy eagle profile that you see there. Oh, that's me. That's us signing the agreement to buy the piece of land in Western Panama. So yeah, it's in this village is very interesting. We're super excited. These are the species of macaws that we get to see. The most common one in the Darien area is the blue and gold macaw, that yellow one. But the one that's of greatest interest is the great green macaw, which is the one you see here on the right. And they're critically endangered worldwide, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. They're critically endangered, which means that there's like only a handful of individuals left in the world. They're found in the eastern part of Panama or central eastern part of Panama, a little bit of Costa Rica, some left, and Colombia, and a bit of Ecuador. And some populations are actually still left in Nicaragua. And we were featured here in the news. This is TVN newscast. And this is Griselda Grajales, one of our indigenous researchers. We have been training them to climb trees. because part of the project involves, well, not just the harp eagle, which is here, but we try to study the macaws. This is a picture of a great green macaw at the nest. And this one has also another couple. You can see them. We need better optics. So if anybody has better camera or binoculars or scopes that you want to get rid of, let us know. This is a view of some of the videos that our field researchers work with. Well, we gave them a couple of phones, but we'd certainly like to have some sort of handy, what do you call it? A handy cam or camera, a video camera that will have a greater reach so they can record better what's happening. But they do their best with whatever tools we're able to give them in the Darien to study the macaws. That's really cool. What else? Yeah. And about this indigenous population, just showing some photos. Again, wanted to see the ones up about nesting, because one of the projects we're trying to do is let me look up those slides. So I had to my PowerPoint isn't working, so I tried to work with the photos I have. Here we go. So I'm gonna show you photos of the macaw breeding program that we're running. Here we go. Here we go. So this is some of the views of the macaws. And we have been able to identify about 3 or 4 active nests. You can see the great green macaw there as part of the research. We have about 6 native, we call them, like rangers that they go out to look for these macaws. Here's a view of one there as well. You can see a little bit of it, of the great green macaw. Unfortunately, we learned about this one that was captured to be sold as pet. So they asked for $500 for this pet macaw. And that's part of the reason these animals are critically endangered. One is, of course, habitat loss. And secondly, because there's the illegal pet trade in the jungle. So this is a part of a training for the indigenous girls that we want, that are helping us in the monitoring. It's a really nice shot of blue and gold macaws, and this is a great green macaw. Oops, let's save photos. Well, that's me going to. This is another filter that we did. We also work with this indigenous population with a tree reforestation program, or that we're trying to get them to plant almost 100,000 trees in the community. So we do regular campaigns that we trying to show them how to prepare the nurseries and select the best the native species. And it's quite an innovative project with a group called Earthshot Labs. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. And we're trying to encourage them to go into some of the carbon credit kind of approach, whereby we get some donors to give us money in exchange for us planting trees. And in turn, we can pay the indigenous populations for reforesting their lands. So if they have like cattle ranching, if they have like a lot of area that they have clear cut in the past, they can restore the forest and get paid at the same time. So it's kind of an economic incentive to tree plantings. So here you can see the community members preparing saplings in the. Anyway, that's just a few more of the shots that we have of the people joining us on the various campaigns to patrol the rainforest, which is, of course, our main goal. So yeah, we're super excited with all these projects with raptor migration in Western Panama, in the Caribbean side, with the brand new nature reserve that we have in Chiriquí, which is the Pacific side of Western Panama. We're excited to have the macaw breeding program that we have with indigenous ladies and guys that are climbing trees and learning techniques to monitor the species of macaws, especially the great green macaw, which is critically endangered, and also the habitat restoration with native species, which is what we're doing. Yet another project that I would like to share with you briefly, if I may. Here, let me see. Is one that we work with prison inmates. I'm not sure I'm going to show you. I can show you here real quick. Let me see if this photos. Yes, here we go. 1 second. I'm going to try to share. 1 second. We're trying to involve, as part of the resocialization, we call it. Do you have that term in English? How do you call when you're bringing back prison inmates to
Rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation? Thank you. Yes. So I'm going to share with you that screen right here. Here it is. So this, can you see the picture here?
Yeah, we can.
So these are prison inmates, both female and male prison inmates from the local prisons, and they get to spend the day with us. This is doing habitat restoration. So we're getting rid of this huge grass, which is like pampas grass, that very tall grass that that takes over the land, and it's very, very difficult and labor intensive to get rid of it. Look at how tall these grasses are, right?
You're underground?
It's Saccharum spontaneum is the name of this very invasive grass. So we not only do we have to cut it, but then we have to remove it manually, because if you leave much of it in place, you would it will grow back right away and take it over. So we have to remove it, cut it, remove it, and then we'll be planting this weekend, actually, day after tomorrow on Saturday, we're going to be planting native species in this one. So, and then we have to maintain it to make sure the grass doesn't come back. And that would allow us to, make sure it's turned back to its natural sense. So we're very happy because it's part of an agreement we have with the Ministry of Government. Our social media, it was featured in a number of media outlets, and so that's really interesting. Oh, that's me signing the agreement. That's me looking like a professional, almost lawyer.
Very soon.
Yeah, actually, this is super excited because I'll be done this year. I just came back from class.
Congratulations.
Yay. So that's the Minister of the Government, Minister of Government. They're in charge of all the prisons and a number of other things. So as a result of this agreement, we are able to get prison inmates both from the Female Rehabilitation Center and from the Tinajitas Center. And actually, I just met with a judge day before yesterday, because we want to involve the prison inmates not only on like day activities, like day trips, because they usually we pick them up in prison in the morning and then they go back in the afternoon. But we really want their help to go for longer periods of time, because as a result of this agreement that we signed with the government, they are allowed to reduce their sentence by working. So if they work 2 days with us, they deduct 1 day from their prison term. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but So it's sort of like, mm, fulfilling more time in a quicker period of time. So if you have a term of say like 7 or 8 years, but you work a whole year with us, you may be able to shorten your term for as much as a whole year or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's super excited. And so far we're only doing it on a like day-to-day basis, but we're meeting with other lawyers and the judges to see if they allow us to take the prison inmates away from prison to spend time at our field stations, either in the Darien in Chucantí or in Chiriquí, which is our brand new reserve. Because as you can see, there are a lot of labor-intensive activities that we need to do, like trail maintenance. We need to keep the habitat restoration. We need just patrolling so they can go with our rangers and patrol the perimeter of the reserve. And that's a very important part that unfortunately oftentimes groups, the donors that give us money to buy these pieces of land for conservation, they don't tend to understand or they're not too empathetic about it, in the sense that they're very happy to give us money to buy land. And well, if you look at our yearly budget or whatever, it's like, wow, these guys are doing really well because they get hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy land. And yes, we have done in the past, but then they don't like to give us much money to keep it up, like pay for the rangers, pay for their food, pay for the joint patrols with the law enforcement. And this is actually what makes it real, because otherwise it would be another paper park. Okay, it was purchased, you own the deeds to the land, but the neighbors come in and squat, they come in and poach, they come in and cut down timber trees. And that's not the idea. The idea is that if you are going to buy something, it's because you're going to protect it in perpetuity. And that takes in resources, and that takes people to patrol it. It takes food to provide them, and ideally on a regular basis have joint patrols with law enforcement. Because, well, part of the reason a lot of these areas like Chucantí and Western Panama in San Bartolo, the brand new reserve, part of the reason they still remain sort of intact and with their wildlife is because they're so far away that there's no law enforcement. So there's been very little development historically, but now that there are no other places to develop, they're subject to pressure by people to develop. And at the same time, they're so far away that they're pretty much no man's land. There's no law enforcement there to speak of. So the fact that we are bringing the law enforcement agencies to patrol the area gives a sense to the neighbors that we're for real and they better be careful with what they're doing. This is a little bag of plantains that we actually. So here's a little. Well, when you come to Panama and you want to get something done, you come bearing gifts, right? When you want to meet with the ministers or the head office or whatever. So what we do is that we bring plantains from our farms in the jungle, and we donate them to the office, and that way we can get meetings real quickly with the staff. Anyway, so this is just one of the things we're working with prison inmates that we have been working on recently, these last couple of months. I mean, it's been going on a very small scale, like on a daily, like a day trip out to do habitat restoration near in the city. But now we're working on moving it forward to the next step or next stage, which is when we want to have prison inmates spend weeks at a time with us at with our rangers in the remote rainforest where we have our nature reserves, both in the Darien and in Chiriquí, in San Bartolo Reserve near Costa Rica, rather. So it's super exciting. And I have to thank you so very much because Palos Verdes South Bay Audubon have been supporting us for a few years now. And oftentimes it's unrestricted funding. And this is very important because, I mean, we get funding from other sources, but it's very much allocated for a land purchase or for this or for that. and we have almost no flexibility. And when things come up, or we want to bring the police to the Darien or to another side, or we want to bring doctors to attend to the indigenous communities, they come for free. Yes, they bring free medication, but you have to provide food, you have to transport them, you have to pay gas, you have to hire a boat to take them out. So having this flexibility of some donations like yours gives us such a more flexibility and such an ability to adapt and be able to provide services to more and more people throughout the country. So I think that's more or less what some of the latest news that I wanted to share with you folks. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, yeah, we can all applaud somehow,
That's good.
somewhere. Anyway,
Guido, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Katie. What is the prisoners' reaction to the land? Do you see a sort of a transformation in them, or do they just do it because it shortens their sentence? What's your feeling?
That's a very, very good question. And it's often hard to convey this because, you know, when you have to do reports and you do your reporting and your statistics and all that, you say, okay, we involved 400 prison inmates over the last year, and they collected, because we take them out for beach cleanups, so they collected 4 tons of debris from the beaches, and we planted 2,000 trees with them, and we cleared 4 hectares of invasive grass for restoration. You know, those are, you know, the cold figures, the cold numbers.
Mhm.
But there's so much more beyond that. It's amazing. When you're there in the field with them, they're like so thankful. They're so happy to be there. They give so much back. I mean, and they also they feel good, not just because they're stepping away from prison, from the 4 walls where they're normally at. They also, we provide them with very nice meals and fresh fruit that they don't get at all in prison. So they're super excited to come help us out on whenever we do, a couple of times a week that we do this. And but then on the emotional point of view, and one in particular that literally brought tears to our eyes was when we were doing a beach cleanup the first time we went with one group, and they hadn't been outside for like a decade.
Oh, God.
And they were like, oh my God, we haven't seen sand in like 10, 12 years. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Thank you so much for bringing us out here. And we even had some because we did this in different parts of the country for the World International Beach Cleanup. And the ones in Western Panama actually went in, they asked the, how do you call the prison guards if they could go into the water because they hadn't been in salt water in the ocean for like decades. So they were like, wow, this is, and they went in with the whole clothes and everything. They didn't care because they wanted to feel the you know, the ocean in them. So it's very interesting. Actually, now that you mention it, we're working on, we submitted some requests, because that's one thing we would like to be able to, because I'm telling you this because this is some of the anecdotes of what we have experienced with prison inmates. But how do you convey this in a report? How do you get funding? Because if you cannot quantify the impact, sometimes the funders or the potential donors don't see any advantage. And it's very important because when we do the math, the fact is we operated at a loss because it's expensive to transport the inmates. It's expensive to feed them. You have to provide all the equipment, all of this, and at a given point, we were considering, you know what, we're spending more money bringing in the prison inmates to remove this invasive grass, and we can just hire a contractor to do it. You know what I mean? But then we realized that we're not just doing this for restoring a couple of hectares of habitat, but it's far more than that. It's about involving these prison inmates, teaching them the value, and getting them to change the chip. Because, I mean, when you put a human being behind bars, and believe me, our prisons are far, far worse than anything you've seen in the States. Here we have a cell that was designed to hold like 4 or 5 inmates, and they hold like 15. And they're like super cramped up in there, and some sleep on the floor, some sleep under very precarious conditions. And so when you live on this for years and years under these conditions, I mean, you can barely stand each other, and their state of mind is very sour, to say the least. I'm not sure how you can describe it better, but it's not very nice. And we've also noticed when they come help us out in the projects that, and we oftentimes invite also, it's not just them, but we also bring along our own volunteers. So we have like students, and we have like private citizens that come volunteer for us. And at first, our volunteers are a little hesitant because, you know, you saw these characters with all their tattoos and all these, you know, like gang host setup. But, you know, they eventually, from in both ways, by the way, like from our citizen perspective, we tend to look at them as animals because, you know, they've been bad, malo. And but then you say, hey, these are nice people after all. I mean, they made mistakes. Most of them have paid most of their debt to society in their prison terms. But the fact is that they're humans. They're human beings with feelings, with needs and wants. And it's nice to give an opportunity to come on out and do something that's productive, and that they see that they're valued by society, and they have plenty to offer to society. So I think it's a very important part of their rehabilitation process. We call it resocialization, or bringing them back to society. So yeah, that's my message.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Guido, adding on to that, have you had any prisoners who want to come and work for you when they get out?
Yeah, they always ask us, are there any opportunities to come and work with you? I say, well, yeah, there's plenty to be done, but unfortunately, we don't have funding to pay salaries to. I mean, we would love to, and maybe that's something we can pursue, like getting some sort of support, some sort of grant. I'm not sure if they're out there, and if you have any ideas, please do let me know, to hire them after they're done. Yeah. And it's really cool because we've been doing this for the last 3-4 years, little by little at first. Now we're doing it more intensive. Of course, with COVID, it all froze and nothing got done. But now that we're starting back again, it seems to be having quite a bit of success. And they want to keep doing it, and they want to do it every day if they could. But it's very costly, you know, it's expensive to the logistics, the food, the materials, the transportation, and all that. It's pricey. So we would like to get some local donors or like a sponsor of a project that will help us. But it's definitely worthwhile. And as I was saying, we're contacting the psychology and sociology departments of local universities to try to have them quantify or do some surveys before and after our programs to try to gauge that impact on the emotional state of these prison inmates, from being, I gather, very sour and resentful from being put away for so long, and after, when they see that they're appreciated and they're valued, their efforts are valued, and that's quite important for us. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have some. There it is. So where you removed the grass and planted native trees, how long have you been doing that, and what kind of results are you getting from that effort?
That's a very good question, because it's not easy at all. I mean, actually the scientific name for this invasive grass is called Saccharum spontaneum. So that saccharum, may sound familiar to saccharin, and that's the genus of sugar cane, which is Saccharum officinatum. That's the sugar cane. And the one that's an invasive is the cousin of it called Saccharum spontaneum. Unfortunately, it doesn't produce sugar at all, but it grows fast as heck. It's almost spontaneously appears everywhere. So it's not easy. We have to work hard at getting rid of it and like plowing it out so it doesn't grow back fast. Because one of the things this plant does is it grows fast, and I mean really fast. It can grow about 2 inches each day. So imagine a day, 2 days, a week, a month, the grass is up through the roof. But yeah, the results are quite encouraging. We're still in a learning curve where originally we just planted so we removed the grass and planted some native saplings, but then the grass grows so much faster that they pretty much overtake the ground again, and they suffocate the native species saplings that we planted. So then we started planting other species that were equally fast growing, like some sort of beans, some local beans, some banana leaves, or some banana trees. And those have allowed us to, because the only thing that takes care of this invasive grass is to shade them out. While they're in the sun, they're happy campers. If you put a shade over it, then they go back, they reduce. And we have had plots that we have been working on, not as much recently, but for 5 years or so, that you can see them, and they used to be like barren territory, and now it's a really nice piece of second growth forest that's under regeneration. So it's very exciting. Any other questions?
That's encouraging. On these efforts to restore and get rid of invasives and stuff like that, and the overall community between your indigenous groups and farmers and ranchers and in the city, what are you moving people's opinions through all this work you're doing?
Yeah, that's an amazing point to bring up, and that's something we're lagging behind much at all. I mean, we would need more help in spreading the word around. Now the beauty of social media, with all the pros and cons, but one of the beauties of it is that it allows us to just post some photos, post some videos, and thousands of people would see them, and that's quite powerful and helpful in changing people's attitudes against the resources. I mean, they start to appreciate more and more, and so it's good news all around.
Yeah, I think from my experiences here along the beach, the more community endorsement you can obtain, the easier it's going to be to continue your work.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why we're trying to involve as many local people in our various biological research projects, like with the macaws and with the migrating hawks and all that, so they can feel like they're part of the whole thing. And it's not just our wildlife, it's all of our wildlife altogether. Yes. Any other questions?
Guido, I have a question. Do you find that the indigenous people still retain a knowledge of the birds and the other fauna in terms of where to find them and how to identify them? Or do you think they've been so marginalized and alienated from the land that they've lost that inherent knowledge? What's your feeling about it?
That's a very good question too, and it's true on both ends. I mean, the fact that they are, even though they are indeed very knowledgeable, and especially the elders. I'm not sure. I think you experienced something similar when you had the first your great grandparents or whatever that immigrated into the U.S. They spoke very little English. And as a result of that, they probably didn't like their kids born in the U.S. or are just recently arrived from the US, they wanted them all to speak English, right? And little by little, and that's also the case of my sister and my nieces, they don't speak that much Spanish anymore because the parents thought, oh no, they need to learn English, forget about their native language. And I think that was a mistake because, of course, now we know that the more languages you know, the better. And in the case of the indigenous people, it has been the same as well. People don't appreciate their traditional ways as much. They think, I mean, because they're subjected so much to the Western civilization or Western influence that is like, blasting them with advertisements day and night and in social media and YouTube or whatever, that they need to buy these Nike shoes or they need to buy this t-shirt or they need to buy this and that. And unfortunately, a lot of those not so proper values are taking root and people really want those goodies. It's kind of hard not to, disagree with that because, there are people after all, and if they want to wear $100 Nike shoes or $200 Nike shoes, well, amen, I guess. But I believe it goes contrary to their traditional ways. So I would rather have them have some sort of incentive to maintain their traditional ways as opposed to reverting back to just buying stuff elsewhere. Thank you.
Bonnie, did you have a question? No. Okay. Well, this was certainly enjoyable learning about what you're doing. And the evening is wearing on and people are disappearing. I think they're ready to go home. But I'm so happy you were able to join us. We had a rough start at this end too. I'll get better with this.
No worries. I just texted in the Adopta Bosque website.org if you want to browse through it and learn more about the various projects. It's still on the works, but most of the stuff is there. And we have some of our fundraisers, some of the crowdfunding campaigns to raise funds for the Hog Watch, which is one of the areas that we need support with. That'll be awesome. Well,
Yes.
Thank you so much for putting this together. And all your support you're giving us for all these years is being spectacular.
So
Thank you so
hopefully
much.
in in a reasonable amount of time, you can return and give us another update in a year or two. That would be really fun.
Awesome. And maybe we should start thinking now that things are slowly going back to normal of a potential trip to Panama for you guys.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, it's very tempting.
Yay. I'm sure you appreciate it. Did I tell you that I have 300 species in my backyard? 302, actually.
Oh, we got questions here on the chat. Okay. So you all can see the Adopta Bosque. I was pleased. I wrote it correctly. And
Thank you. Allison. All right.
Thanks for being a great steward of the land, Guido.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
really like the way you're reaching out to so many parts of society in your locale. That's important for getting things done.
I think Jan Gardner is ready to come to Panama. Yay.
Yeah. Yes, I am. That sounds like a really good idea. I mean, I think we're all indebted to Jess for finding you, and you have just done, an amazing job as a steward of the land. And as I listened to this, I thought, yeah, you're like a born collaborator.
Yeah.
And that is just absolutely what you need to have, to generate the support that you need. And I thought, oh yeah, an Audubon trip to Panama. I love it. What a great idea. Yeah.
So how long? So we come into town right there near the canal, and then you can drive up to your places.
Yeah, there are a lot of places. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, right now we have a group actually that came down from LA area, from Los Angeles, California, and Conejo Audubon. I think some of you may have attended that talk as well.
Okay.
And they came there, 12 people, and they're touring all over Panama. And actually today they watched like 5,000 turkey vultures and Swainson's hawks in migration. It was really spectacular. And they have, I'm really disappointed because since I had class and I had this engagement with you guys, I didn't go with them, and I dipped on a live bird that would have been from my. They saw a pinnated bittern that I've never seen in my life.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which Audubon did you say that was?
This is the Conejo Audubon, Conejo.
Conejo.
Yes,
Conejo.
Conejo Valley. It's out,
Conejo Valley.
yeah, it's out,
LA.
near, oh, come on, it's,
It sounds familiar to me. We can look it up, but
it's west
Near
of West
Thousand
Hills.
Oaks. It's near Thousand Oaks.
Yeah.
Okay. Super.
Oh,
Yeah,
Thousand Oaks.
so
They're having a great
apparently
time.
the magic month is October, right?
For hog migration, yes.
Okay, October. So
Yeah. I mean, but
obviously-
whenever it's convenient for you, I mean, we also have the spring migration. May not be as spectacular, like millions of birds, but still a couple thousands of birds are nice to see. Plus, it's drier in the spring migration. It's drier, so if you can come in and say in, I don't know, April, something like that, that will be good as well.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we're
So we
going to
can
talk
talk-
about. There's no
Yeah,
doubt
let's
about.
talk more about that. I can send you a proposal. I'm not sure if you will only invite members of your Audubon chapter, or if you're going to invite people from the community, because because since we are the ones running it and we're not like trying to make a fortune of it, we can still offer you a fantastic birding experience for a fraction of what the big tour operators like Vent or Field Guides or whatever. They're great in their own right, of course, but they have a lot of overhead expenses that they have to cover, whereas we don't. So that allows us to give you the best prices possible.
And how many people can you handle?
Well, 10 people, I mean, it would be great. 8 people, 10 people. Of course, the more people, we have more guides. So we have Jacobo, we have a couple of our colleagues. We can have extra help because, of course, trying to get 10 people to see one bird is kind of tough. But if you have 2 guides, they can always find different angles or look at different birds. So yeah, that would be a good number.
And Julian wrote in here, he's very good at pulling weeds. He is. He said, ask Anna.
For the habitat restoration?
Yes.
Cool. Much appreciated. Alrighty, folks, I think it's kind of late for you. For me, it is as well.
Oh, yeah, you are 3 hours ahead of
Yeah.
us, right?
For me, it's almost 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you so much. This was great.
Lovely seeing you all. Lovely hearing from you, and thanks for all the input, and especially Jess and you guys for putting together this and supporting us year after year. It's much appreciated.
Yeah,
I
thank
like
you.
these programs. So thank you all for coming and listening. This was fascinating, and I really like Jan's idea of a Audubon trip to Panama.
Well, that was really Guido's idea. You know, I like it. You know, the Conejo thing. I mean, I think we could take more than 10 people. I mean, it might have to be, I think we could work that out. I
Well, we
love
might
it.
have to do 2 back-to-back trips or something. So
Yeah,
that
2
they're not too
trips
crowded.
or split the
Mhm.
group.
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Excellent.
So we'll ponder on that one.
Look at your calendars to see which are the busiest times or which times are not so busy, so we can make it happen.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Guido.
Alrighty.
Thank you,
Okay.
Guido.
Good night, my
Thank you,
friends.
Guido.
Good to hear.
Night.
Thank you.
Gracias, amigo.
Adios.
Gracias. Hasta pronto. Ciao, ciao.
Okay, good night.
Ciao.
And I'm going to end it now.
bye.